So any changes the family wants to make to the application, we can assist them with making those changes.
If I would like to apply to both a community-based organization and a CPS school, I have to complete 2 different applications.
No, that is a red light. You do not have to complete 2 different applications. There is one application. You put your choices, the 5 choices on that one application, whether they're CPS school-based or community-based organizations, and then you submit that application for your choice.
And they can call the hotline. If a family is having technology barriers and they want to complete an application, you guys can do that too for them. And they can give you schools and agencies that they would want to apply, and you would be able to help with that.
Exactly. We'd be able to help with that. We'd be able to help if they know that they need a certain hours for their programming, but they don't know what programs have those hours. We can help them do searches for that, their community, anything to identify that program, and then get that application submitted with both CPS and community-based organization options.
I love it. And we're joined here today by Marquinta Thomas with Illinois Action for Children. Come with us as we're starting this conversation on screen. Welcome, Marquinta. Can you take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yes, Leslie, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm Marquinta Thomas, Vice President of Community Impact with Illinois Action for Children. And that means that I lead the bulk of our family and community engagement programming, including our partnership with Chicago Early Learning.
So grateful to have you here. Well, let's jump right in. You know, families have a lot of questions around how to apply for preschool, what services are available, whether they have preschoolers or all the way up to age 12 years old. And I know Illinois Action for Children has support for families. So let's start by first talking about the different supports that Illinois Action for Children offer.
So Illinois Action for Children offers a myriad of supports for families. We are most known for the Child Care Assistance Program. That's where we administer the IDHS Child Care Assistance Program that assists families with paying for child care. And this is for families with children aged birth up to age 12. So this could be for before and after school care. This may be for some summer programming. This may be for an early learning program, for a program for your infant, but we're able to assist with paying for that for families. Additionally, we support the Chicago Early Learning Hotline and Chicago Early Learning for Families, working to connect families to early learning programs in the city of Chicago. But we also do that work across Cook County. So we are across Cook County educating families about the importance of enrolling in early learning programs, educating families about the importance of having those child care supports for their children, and assisting families with applying for those, and really setting goals and understanding how this makes a successful child, but also a successful family.
That is wonderful, Marquinta. And I want to go first. I want to talk about like the first part where you started talking about the child care assistance. How are families made aware of those services? How are the pathways? What are the different pathways that they can get to you to learn more about that or hear more about that?
So typically I say families hear about the Child Care Assistance Program when they need it, right? If you don't have a child, if you're not looking for child care for your child, it's not something that you readily know about. But once families need that and they go into a child care provider, or sometimes their doctor may tell them about it, they can visit our website at actforchildren.org. And also, if they're Googling or doing searches for child care, they can be connected to the Child Care Assistance Program. But a lot of times families find out about us and find out about our services from providers and from other folks who know about this service and word of mouth. Many families who have utilized our services, they let families know when they have young children, reach out to Illinois Action for Children. They can help you get your child into a program. And so we're available. We have 3 walk-in sites where families can come and visit to submit their documentation and paperwork to apply. We also have a phone line that families can call and a website, as I mentioned before, that families can go on to apply as well.
And Marquinta, do you see that, I know you said word of mouth is one way. Do you see that families are experiencing challenges getting whatever documents and things that are required for them to qualify? And is there support for families in order to help get the required documents, or what are the required documents?
So for Illinois Action for Children, for the Child Care Assistance Program, families have to complete and submit an application, and then they have to also submit proof of employment, and then for sometimes they have to submit proof of guardianship for the child. And to get those documents, typically, if they don't submit those documents with the application, someone will reach out to them to let them know what they need and what they need to submit for that application. And then once they submit that, their application is processed and they're either approved or connected or contacted to let them know we need more information for your application. And once that process goes on, there is an application specialist that reaches out to families, that keeps that contact with families to let them know what they need and what they need to submit to get that application approved.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I know, making a decision of enrolling a child, especially a young child, it's a big decision. And even when you're thinking about older children, there are barriers sometimes. And I'm so glad to hear that Illinois Action for Children has a process in place to kind of walk through. Because if I'm hearing you correctly, it's almost like, we have support each leg of the way, and families will be getting either follow-up calls or, notifications. And there's also like a staff person and walk-in spaces for families who may need that additional support. So I am so grateful to hear that and know that you guys have that in place. Now I want to jump to my favorite program that you sponsor or help support, which is our Chicago Early Learning application. Talk about how you help families apply for pre-K, whether they want to come to a CPS site or a community-based organization location. Talk a little bit about your support for families of young learners.
Yes, of course. So we've supported families for years in partnership with the Mayor's Office, CPS, and DFSS to help families to connect to Chicago Early Learning. So one thing that we manage is the Chicago Early Learning Hotline, where families can call. The hotline is open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Families can call and get whatever support they need to complete that application. If they don't know a program or they haven't chosen a program yet, staff can ask them questions and help them to find a program that specifically suits them and their child's needs. Once they identify that program, staff can let them know the steps to applying to that program. And if they need staff to submit that application for them, staff can complete that application, submit that for them, and make sure that they have everything that they need. Tell them the information about what they need to take after they complete that application to get that enrollment taken care of as well. So the staff is online, ready to help. We also have a web-based chat feature where staff can families can visit the website and ask staff questions through that web-based feature as well. Because we did hear from families about our long wait times, and that's a way that we can troubleshoot some of those easier questions that families have about the application opening, about where they can go and things of that nature. We don't discuss specific cases through the web chat. You would have to call the website for specific information, but you can get call the hotline, but you can get general questions answered through that chat.
I love that you guys built that chat feature. I know in the district, that was one of the things. It was like, I waited online. I just had a simple question and I had to wait to get it. So I'm glad that was built out, and it was a result of hearing from community. And so I really want to take an opportunity and just say thank you for listening, hearing, and responding to what community folks said they need. The one thing I want to talk about is, Chicago's diverse. We have different languages. So talk about how the hotline is able to support the languages of families.
So we do have Spanish consultants on the hotline, both Spanish and English speaking consultants on the hotline. If families call that speak another language, we would either refer them to CPS or refer them to someone in-house that works for Illinois Action for Children that could assist that family with completing the application.
Marquinta, I think the other thing that I would love for you to talk about is, I know that families have said, some suggestions on what they wanted to hear improved. I know we added the chat feature. Is there anything else we have done to better meet the needs of families in the community based off of the feedback we've received?
Oh, Leslie, there's been so much. There's been so much. As you know, families will call and let us know what's going wrong with the hotline and what's going wrong with this application process. And you know that because the hotline acts as a feedback loop, connecting communities directly to CPS, the mayor's office, DFSS, to let you all know this is or this is not working for families, right?
Yes.
So that implementing the chat feature was one of the things that we did in response to families. Additionally, the family resource centers that you all have, those were put in neighborhoods specifically where families needed that help and shared that they needed that help. We've done surveys with families and learned that families needed on-the-ground support to complete the application. So our outreach team, because we also support outreach for Chicago Early Learning, has done pop-ups across the city in different neighborhoods to connect with families on the ground and help them with completing that application or just learning about Chicago Early Learning and how they can apply.
I want to stop. Don't you give it too much. You give it too much.
I'm sorry.
Start with the outreach and the pop-ups. Those have been very successful, and I don't think a lot of people know about them. So can you talk about a pop-up and how like we work together to really strategically identify where we want to pop up? It's not like we just say, oh, I want to go here, but there's some real data and thought and intention behind where we show up.
There is. So a lot of times we look towards the data of applicants, applications, and enrollment data as well to see what communities those applications are coming from and are not coming from, to see where we have low enrollment and to see where we know we can target families in that community and make sure they're aware about this valuable resource and they know how to connect with it, right? So we started doing laundromat pop-ups as a result of surveys that we did with families where they said they wanted to see us in the communities. So we went out to the laundromats, we brought games, crafts for the children, we bought laundry detergent to raffle off for the parents, and we of course bought information about Chicago Early Learning and applications assistance to help them to apply for programs. And we've done those in laundromats, but we've done those across the city in different areas, at libraries, at museums, at doctors' offices and things of that nature, really going to seek people out, find them where they are and educate them about this valuable resource.
I remember we were at a park district and we brought in also some community resources too. So not only, you know, some of these pop-ups are really about ensuring that families get access to early learning, but some of them are also about bringing some of those citywide resources into specific communities so families have access right within their space.
Yes, of course. So we know that that's an important part of families being successful in enrolling in these programs is having those resources that they need to connect. So having connections to the doctor's office, to the dentist's office, to make sure that they have their birth certificates, to make sure they have everything that they need. But we also think about the success of the family. I mentioned that before. So we'll also have resources about adult education and things that the parents can do that they may be interested in to better themselves. So we really think about the entire family in this process and make sure we bring all those resources on deck with us when we can to share that information with family.
So I know I stopped you at pop-ups. I know you have more that you were going to share. I want to give you an opportunity to share a few more before we move into our next segment.
Additional ways that we work to enhance based off of feedback. We really understood that families were having issues with 3-year-old spaces. That was another issue that was tackled through feedback from the hotline, even the application process. So families did share some of the difficulty that they had with the application process, and leadership worked to refine the application process and make it much easier for families. So all of the feedback that families give us, we use that to improve the process for families. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we want families to be able to connect with these programs as seamlessly as possible.
And I just want to say that, Illinois Action for Children, you guys have been great partners with our hotline. And the feedback that you get, you do not hesitate with, sending it right over. And I think it's because of our partnership, we have seen not only great improvement in the hotline support and even reduce, wait times, but also like better collaboration, right? Which resulted in a cleaner application for families that are applying for preschool across the city. Before we transition, I just want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about community collaborations that you may want to highlight.
Yes, so community collaborations or early learning community collaborations are so important in communities. So we talk a lot about connecting with communities and community engagement in this call, and that's one of the pillars of community engagement is having cross-sector stakeholders come together to discuss what's needed in the community, and that's what early learning collaborations do. They bring partners and families from all over certain communities to talk about what's going on in the community and really how to address the barriers that families are facing with connecting with early learning programs, and to provide like wraparound support for families to get enrolled. So you have doctor's offices at the tables, dentist offices, family organizations that may provide clothing and things of that nature. All of these organizations in the community come together to really, really target what's specific to that community and address those issues in the community. And that work is very important because we know it's 77 communities across Chicago, and each community is different. While we're all Chicago, each community has its own sets of issues. So it's so important to have folks on the ground that live in that community and understand what is going on in that community and can connect with families in that way. So we turn to early learning collaborations. We also turn to trusted stakeholders in the community, such as churches. We turn to everyone in the community to have a full understanding of the importance of getting kids enrolled in early learning and how to connect families to the hotline and to programs.
That is wonderful. How do families get connected to be a part of some of those community collaborations? Just because I know families are going to ask me that.
Yeah, so collaborations exist in certain communities. We do have a website on Illinois Action for Children called Partner Plan Act. If they go to our website and go to our Partner Plan Act page, they can see the collaborations that exist across, honestly, the state. But they can specify Chicago and see collaborations that are in their communities that they can connect with.
I love it. That is such a wealth of information. And it's so important because, you know, all families want the best for children and they want the best for their child specifically. And so, you know, having an opportunity to bring voice to tables is so important. So thank you so much for sharing that. We are now going to transition to one of my favorite segments, Red Light, Green Light. Have you played that game as a child?
I did play that game as a child, one of my favorite games.
It's one of your favorite. Okay, so we're going to have some fun today.
Okay.
Now, you do not have the paddles, okay? Because generally, if we were in person, I would have a red paddle in front of you, a yellow, and a green. And so, you know, when I ask you a question, you would kind of hold it up and say, whatever, right? And so we're going to pivot a little bit because we are on screen. And so I want you to just say, when you hear a myth or you hear a question or you hear something that may not sound right or is right, you're going to say, I think it's green because that's true. Or you're going to say, not for sure. Maybe that's a yellow. Or you can say, that's definitely not true. And here's the right answer. And it is, that's a red for sure. It's glaring. And here's why. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to ask you questions, and then we'll start the game. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to ask you questions. All right, here we go. First question. And then now, there's a lot of myths out there around the application, all right? So here's one of the questions that we get a lot. The Chicago Early Learning Hotline can only answer questions that are general about the application process.
Oh, that's a big red light. Red light. So the Chicago Early Learning Chicago Early Learning Hotline can answer questions about the application. So any questions that you have about the application, whether you submitted it already or not, call the hotline and they can assist you with that.
And one thing I also note is that, you know, you're open year round, right? And so we know family situations change. Folks may move from one area to the city and the other. And so not only can the hotline, you know, create an application, which you've talked about, answer general questions, but they can also help you make changes to your application. So whether you want to change from school to school or school to community-based agency, you know, your team is equipped. You can see behind the scene and you can help with those sorts of transitions and that information as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So any changes the family wants to make to the application, we can assist them with making those changes.
Question number 2.
Okay.
If I would like to apply, this is some families always ask to, if I would like to apply to both a community-based organization and a CPS school, I have to complete two different applications.
No, that is a red light. You do not have to complete two different applications. There is one application. You put your choices, the 5 choices on that one application, whether they're CPS school-based or community-based organizations, and then you submit that application for your choice.
And they can call the hotline. Family is having technology barriers and they want to complete an application. You guys can do that too for them, and they can give you schools and agencies that they would want to apply, and you would be able to help with that.
Exactly. We'd be able to help with that. We'd be able to help if they know that they need a certain hours for their programming, but they don't know what programs have those hours. We can help them do searches for that, their community, anything to identify that program, and then get that application submitted with both CPS and community-based organization. Then get that application.
All right, are you ready? Question number 3.
Ready.
Applying through Chicago Early Learning Hotline means that I am only applying to CPS for pre-K programs.
That's another red light, Leslie. That is another red light. One of the reasons why Illinois Action for Children is a partner for the Chicago Early Learning Hotline is because we can speak equitably about all the programs that are available for families in the city of Chicago. So we talk to families about all the programs that are available for them, both community-based programs and CPS programs, and the benefits of each and what works best for their family, and then help them apply for those programs.
I love it. And I think that's so important because I think there's a misconception out there that the Chicago Early Learning application is only a CPS application. And we are busting that myth wide open. That is, the Chicago Early Learning application is a citywide application for both community-based and CPS sites. I think we got one more question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Another question we hear, and I'm curious to hear, I know what you're going to say, is that if I apply through the Chicago Early Learning Hotline, that Illinois Action for Children can help advocate for the program that I want to get into, because you got action in your name.
We do have action in our name. We are about that action, and we are an advocacy organization, but we cannot pull strings to get you in a specific program. It's based on the application process, and the criteria that are determined by the application. And while we are an advocacy organization, we advocate for these programs to exist. We cannot advocate specifically for families to get into a program.
I love it. I love it. I'm so glad you clarified that. Well, Marquinta, it has been a pleasure talking with you and just really sharing with families the wealth of support and services and resources that you have, but more importantly, how you support families with applying for pre-K across the city, whether that's in the Chicago Public School or in a community-based organization. Families. Thank you, Marquinta, for being such a wealth of information for families around how they can access not only the services that are provided, but also the opportunity to apply for pre-K and the supports that are available to them to apply for pre-K across the city of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode was such a wealth of information. Make sure that you subscribe, that you share, and that you join us right here in the circle.